So hello and welcome to another video of this channel, and today I just want to talk about the specialized fragile systems, basically mode attacks that can be performed in it. So this is kind of a interesting topic, yet not so much interesting, you can say that, but it's kind of a thing you have to know. First of all, I'm not teaching most of the labs right now in this particular chapter, because there is no labs actually. But if you want to do this, you have to go deeper into it. I'm just going to give you an insight of it. Okay, actually, if I being honest, I never done it. Okay, I never done application pen testing. First of all, because I never have to do it. I'm just actually a web guy. Okay, I'm actually doing web development for the purpose of understanding web applications better, and similarly, app development. Did app development till now. I'm just tried a little bit, but I'm not into it a lot. But I'm going to do it anyway. Someday I'm going to do it. So to before that someday, I have to wait for it a little. But yes, then let's just go for it. Firstly, there is a mobile attacks, or Android attacks, you can say that. Okay, before, if you have the APK of a particular software, what you need to do, you need to do some reverse engineering. Reverse engineering means, you have a game, maybe Minecraft you have. So how can you create that Minecraft on your own, or you can decompose the inner working and get all the source code. What you do in normal cases, that you have a source code, and in that source code you go to that output. So in reverse engineering, you have to do the decompilation part, or the output to the source. This is what we call the reverse engineering, decomposing steps in a process to determine weaknesses. Okay, so if you know how the structure actually is, so you can get the understanding. That's why I always say, learn the technologies behind it. You can get a lot of idea from it. Second thing, attackers can use it to find vulnerabilities, obviously, and can use be selected to unappropriate controls. If you know that how the inner working of a, if you are playing a GTA San Andreas or something like that, and then if you know this is kind of reducing this much of HP or something like that, you got the source code or something like that, you do the reverse engineering of that particular application. You can mod it, right? You can mod that particular application, or you can get some of the valuable information from the database of that particular game. Like, if you have ever played Valorant or something like that, they have used a database for login the system accounting details. You can get a lot of vulnerabilities from there. Then comes the sandbox analysis for the malware exploitation. These are the most part, actually depends on the blue teaming. Okay, actually I did started some blue teaming. I uploaded a video on blue teaming, but I haven't completed it yet because of some if I say it honestly, I have some component problems. Like, I don't have that much kind of a space in my particular system to work on it. But let's just see if I ever able to work on Kali Linux, if I have that space in it. So I'm going to download it. Maybe it's not possible, because you have to install a lot of systems in the VirtualBox or a sandbox environment. So sandbox analysis is similar like that. If you have to install a lot of virtual boxes, and inside that you have to create a virtual OSs, and in that OS you have to install a particular malware, have to test it passively, aggressively, whatever you want to do. Because if you do it in your own host machine, that if you are doing malware analysis in a host machine, then either you will be very much pro that you know how this particular thing works, or either you will be a fool that you don't know how it works. Pros also don't do it. Okay, don't try to do it. Spamming means DOS attack, also similar. If you are doing a lot of messages or a lot of things, entire system will going to hang. Okay, then comes some of the interesting parts, or like this insecure storage, unencrypted and easy for the apps to access. I'm not talking about you going to access the app. I'm talking about the apps going to access the inner structure. So that are actually, now it's pretty much encrypted, but somehow it's in a unencrypted in most of the places. Comes the passport vulnerabilities. Often side you don't actually apply a lot of typical passwords, but what you do with the passcode, you will add some normal passwords. So you can actually breach it pretty easily, not pretty easily, but you can breach it anyway using brute force or something like that. Certificate pinning also, limiting the certificates that already devices have. If you get that can be malicious. Okay, using known vulnerable components, basically dependency vulnerabilities, libraries, or the included code. This means basically you have to update the system most often, because if you don't update it, there is a vulnerability that can be hacked. Execution or activities of using root that can actually potential for attacker to elevate permissions. If you're using root, somehow it's going to affect that particular system. Overreach permissions, allowing apps to do more than necessary. If you are giving that particular malicious software a lot of permission, that can actually hack that particular system. Maybe there is a chance that it can be malicious. Biometric integrations also can be hacked. And business logic means if someone gets they know how to bypass your what can I say, payment system. You're cooked, bro. You're cooked. Then there comes the mobile tools. This is entirely a different topic. Okay, if you are doing this, you have to do the entire application security pen testing. Like you have to go either side, or you'll have to go to the web application side. So I actually didn't did the application side yet, so I don't actually know how to hack a particular website or application. I really don't know, so I'm not going to take any of these, but you can go and learn these all the tools that will going to help you to understand a lot of better things. Next comes the IoT attacks. IoT attacks, basically Internet of Things attacks. There are a lot of IoT devices you have, like the cameras or the Bluetooth. If you don't know that Bluetooth can be actually hacked through the location system, and this is the first thing, Bluetooth can be hacked. Okay, Bluetooth can use for the location tracking, or tracking your a lot of things. Okay, if you don't know about it, this is actually a pretty common thing. Not common thing, but yeah, you can hack it. Then comes the fragile environment. Because of the low cost, it's not going to take a lot of security measurements, so that is actually pretty concerning for the security purpose, you can say that. Then availability concerns, like interrupted availability could negatively affect larger systems. If you are using a particular device, but you have to make it a lot of cost effective, then you can have some problems. Then comes the data corruption, larger processes and analysis. Data exploitation, easier to access raw and granular data, that can actually also affect it. Insecure defaults, like easy to install, so security is not much there. Clear text communication, encryption is lot of times there is no encryption. If you know how to pair with a Bluetooth, so it's pretty easy to actually grab someone's headphones and play some kind of music, because the pairing system is already there. He is only pairing it. That this doesn't mean that Bluetooth actually knows that you are actually a different kind of mobile. So that is kind of a thing, that most of the things are not encrypted. Then comes the hard-coded configurations. Most of the things are easy to install, so that was one kind of thing. Outdated firmware or hardware, most of the things we don't use, we don't want to remove it because it's actually working for us, but that can actually lead to a lot of vulnerabilities. Like card hacking also comes under this. Okay, data leakage, difficult to secure, simple devices in the wild. Yeah, you can say that, like the SSD, other stuffs, and the use of insecure, outdated components that I already talked about. Data storage basically comes under the SSD hardware, this kind of security purposes. If you are doing this, you have to, I'm just suggesting you to create a password or hardware access for it. Otherwise someone can boot into your system, into another with another application, OS with a live footage, and that can actually harm your system. Just practical advice. Then comes the misconfiguration. On premises and cloud based, you have to stop making misconfigurations. Okay, like blank password, never do this. Network exposure, rarely do this. I'm just doing, cloud based should be network exposure, but never do SSD hardwares to network exposure. It's going to harm the system a lot. I'm definitely telling you this. Then comes the lack of user input sanitization. These are the things actually gone for the injection sections. Okay, injection can actually work on it. So have to pretty secure throughout it. Underlying software vulnerability, same with the any hardware or software built-ins and components. Component you have to update it regularly. Error messages and debug handling, that's kind of also a thing. Injection vulnerability, single code method, I already talked about it. Injection, I already have some video on it. Intelligent platform management say interface, or IPMI. IPMI is a secure control managed servers remotely independent of the host operating system. So when you are running a particular application or something like that, so you can have a particular server or something like that also. So these are what we call the servers. The operating system which is running on the servers is pretty much independent of the host operating system. Sometimes we use a type 1 virtualization on it. I already talked about it in the previous video. Yesterday I talked about it. IPMI's elevated permission requirements make the system vulnerable. Okay, and then comes since IPMI is largely hardware based, patches may not be available or applied, because you don't want to update your hardware systems a lot often. So that is kind of a thing that can actually harm you in a sense, in a longer term, maybe, if someone get the access of your hardware. Virtualization and containerized environment attacks. So VM escape is a very good attack. I talked about it earlier, that in VM escape, attacker can actually escape the VM system and goes to the host system. Okay, so when the attacker can go to the host system, it's not can be. Okay, like I'm not telling he will go, but he can go if there is a vulnerability. So if an attacker can go to escape the virtual machine, that can actually access the memory, the storage, and the processing of the host. So that is kind of a good attack. Then comes the hypervisor vulnerability. Like hypervisor are also vulnerable to DOS, code execution, memory corruption, and VM escape. I already talked about it. VM repository vulnerabilities means in VMs, if you are actually ever run a VM, so you have to know, it's most happen in the containerized systems, but also in the VM systems. It's actually download the softwares or the things or the OSs from a particular repository. If you can update that repository and install a older version of it, like let's just say Ubuntu of 7 or 8 version have a vulnerability. Now there is Ubuntu 22 or 23, I guess. So if you install a lot older version, okay, and the user doesn't know, user is using the OS for the first time, otherwise that can happen. Another thing that can happen in the server, they do not actually check for it. They just check it's Ubuntu or not, it's a Linux or not. What happened that at that time, if you insert this. If you get that access of the repository where they download all the stuffs, if you get that access, so you can change a lot of things, and that can actually harm the system, because then it's vulnerable that you can attack it. Vulnerabilities, related to containerized means that the Docker system workload remote access that can actually happen remotely access. You can do that. Same thing. If you are escape the Docker and go to the host system in server, that's also dangerous because there is no host sometimes because you are using the type 1 virtualization. You can access the sensitive data resources, elevated privilege. You can elevate privilege, go to the root system, host escape. You can do the host escape too. Okay, that is actually pretty, so I'm not going to do this kind of lab. Maybe if I try to do it, I'm going to explain it tomorrow. Okay, so just for it, meet you tomorrow.